Hello, this is Mike Swanson. You're listening to the Wall Street Window Podcast. In a few moments, I'm going to be speaking with Jordan Roy-Byrne, who runs the website, thedailygold.com. And we probably can't get a better time to talk with Jordan than this moment when you consider what's been happening with the gold and silver market. Last night, there was those rocket attack that Iran did against some army bases in Iraq that the U.S. has, and gold went up over $1,600 an ounce. But today, gold went down, and the mining stocks went down too, with the GDX falling 4%. Got a lot of emails about this action. Some people are wondering, is this manipulation at work? Others are wondering, is this a mega top being put in place? So me and Jordan talked about those questions. One thing you may not know, because most people that listen to this podcast come to my website to do it. They get one of my emails notifying them that it's here, and then they find out about it. But this is also available on all the podcast catchers out there, even iTunes. So if you listen to shows on apps, RSS feeds, and so forth, you can find this and subscribe to it on whatever you're using. In fact, if you just go to Google, search and type Wall Street Window Podcast, you'll see a bunch of listings come up with all these podcast catchers. So something you might want to do, then you notified instantly when one of these are put up, because usually I don't email about it till the next day in the morning. So that's what's going on. Of course, I did a podcast yesterday. My message was simply to ignore the news when it comes to geopolitics and in the Middle East when it comes to your trading investing decisions, and stick to the charts. And the stock market has completely ignored the news. If you looked at only the charts, you would never know any of this has been happening. And I also talked about how I'm watching what happens now with oil very closely, and energy stocks in particular, to see if this time is different than the past times in which they would go up on news like this and then completely fall apart, because energy stocks have been in a bear market now for years. But if things are changing, they'll consolidate, hold most of the recent gains, and go up before the end of this month. If that happens, we have got to be on top of that, because there's going to be a tremendous opportunity in energy stocks. What about gold stocks? What about silver? Well, that's what we'll talk about with Jordan in just a second.
Go ahead, caller.
Yeah, I'm interested in the truth about the JFK assassination.
Right. Well, what do you want to know?
Judy Baker's wild claim, Oswald girlfriend, she knew Ruby and Barry, cancer weapons. Really?
I imagine I could claim I have 4 wheels. It doesn't make me a wagon, but okay.
Oswald was on the kill team and trying to prevent the murder of John Kennedy. Come on now. Has a real expert on the JFK assassination looked into her claims?
Go to Amazon.com, enter Judith Baker in her own words. You'll get results for a digital copy of a book where Walt Brown utilizes her own words and the known evidence in the case to get at, well, a different perspective, let's say. You can get Judith Barry Baker in her own words from the author himself, signed if you request it, by contacting Dr. Brown at KIASJFK@AOL.com. It's a fun book, and it actually dissects the many, many fantastic claims. Judith Barry Baker in her own words.
Thank you for all the great information.
Hey, Mike, I'm great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, for sure. I'm glad you're able to make it, because we have seen some wild swings in the price of gold and the mining stocks. I mean, the last couple weeks of the year, the mining stocks really took off, did really great. Newmont and a bunch of the big caps, some of them made 52-week highs ahead of the price of gold. Gold was hardly even going up. And then this past week, this news with Iran happened, Trump killing one of their generals and then them doing their thing and so forth. And gold yesterday, well, Friday it surged, and the mining stocks didn't go up that much. And yesterday, gold at night was over 1,600, and today the GDX was down about 4%. So what do you think is going on? Is this some sort of manipulation happening to gold stock players?
No, I don't think it's manipulation. I just think that, and we see this, we see divergences between the stocks and the metals at turning points in the market. And if you go back to, maybe it was November, I'd have to look in particular, but leading up to this strength, Mike, as you know, the stocks were outperforming the metals, and even silver stocks were acting very well. They were leading the gold stocks. The juniors were outperforming the large gold stocks. The stocks are outperforming the metals. And so that was hinting at the strength that was to come. And the middle of last week, the miners, even before this geopolitical stuff, the miners were starting to lag the metals. I mean, in particular, the gold stocks were really lagging gold. And if you look at the candle charts, you can see that for 3 or 4 days, gold was rising pretty aggressively, but GDX and GDXJ were basically kind of topping out. They were going sideways. The strength was being sold. They weren't able to make new highs. So finally today, gold made its peak and reverse course, and the miners are really getting hit hard. I think it's just a short-term correction. It may last, probably will last for at least a month, probably, or maybe a little bit longer than that. But I'm not too worried about it. In any case, it's good to see that the geopolitical news has died down for the time being, because that's never really a good thing for precious metals, even though people think it is. The gold stocks weren't buying the strength in gold based on geopolitical events. So I'm just glad that we can move on past that and see precious metals correct here, and it'll be a good time to reposition yourself in these stocks if we do see weakness.
Well, I think, had a correction starting around Labor Day, and that GDX divided by GLD ratio had a sharp turn down to create the type of divergence as you point out, was occurring before the event of last Friday. So that was a correction that happened, and a lot of the mining stocks like Newmont fell from 41 down to about 37 in September, and then it took a couple months to break out again. So do you think it'll be something similar to that plays out?
I think it's hard to say. I mean, I think it's, I don't see that much downside in terms of price, but I do think we could see some downside and then some sideways action. So corrections are a function of price and time. The market can correct itself through price and or time. It can be one of the two or a combination of the two. So, I mean, looking at GDX, for example, it's already at the low 28s today where it closed, and there's really strong support at 26. So I don't see that much. I don't see that much more downside in terms of price, but it may go sideways for a little while. So I mean, if you put a gun to my head and said, tell me when GDX is going to make that next move higher towards a big breakout above 31, 32, I would say probably at the earliest now it looks to be spring. But we'll just have to see. I just think it'll be at least a little while before this sector gains some strength. It has to correct now.
Yeah, and another correction that happened last year, I don't know, I kind of doubt it will be like this, but in June and July, when gold first broke through 1350, it went up to 1450 and then chopped around for about 8 weeks. And it seemed to be very volatile and scary at the moment for many people, but then in August it just went crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think it will be different from that because that correction turned out to be pretty small. I mean, it was, looking at the chart, I mean, there was a lot of volatility in a short span of time, but looking at the chart, gold, it was in a fairly tight range. Like it was maybe from, I don't know, 1380 to 1440 or thereabouts. So I think we're probably going to see more weakness this time, but we've already corrected to some degree. Gold closed down at 1560. It was trading above 1600 last night and early this morning. So it's already come off $40 or more. So I think we'll see a little bit more weakness, but honestly, nothing too severe. The big picture remains really, really bullish. I think we both agree on that. And it's just a matter of time. And the markets, again, will have to correct a little bit more here in terms of price and probably more in terms of time. But for the listeners out there, I mean, the next month or two, that's in the weeks ahead, that's the time to reposition yourself and buy the stocks that you may have missed in the last month or two.
Well, definitely. Well, I think that gives a good overview of what you're thinking right now. Do you have any other thoughts for, I know you're busy, but is there anything else on your mind about the markets?
It's a good question. I like how silver is setting up. I think much like the gold stocks, I think silver is going to consolidate and correct some, but the bigger picture looks really bullish. I would just focus on, look at the charts of GDX and GDXJ dating back the last 7-8 years or so. They're trading in these very long bases, and if and when GDX can close above 31, 32, that's going to kick off some really explosive upside in this sector. So I'm really, really bullish on this sector once we get past this correction. And Mike, we've done these interviews for years. I have not been this bullish in a really long time. So I'm really excited about the upside potential in this sector. And use the next couple months to get your portfolio ready for that, and reposition yourself if you can.
Yeah, in some ways, maybe we're fortunate because this is going to give us a chance to find some more small cap stocks, over the next couple of months before the next move up is. I mean, the last thing I want to do is buy when gold is up $20 a day. It's better to buy after it's corrected a bit.
Yeah, exactly right.
Well, thanks for taking the time to talk to me and everyone else. And for everyone listening, go to Jordan's website, thedailygold.com.